That Don't Sound Right is a podcast about talking the way we did before the internet, when you could not prove anyone right or wrong.
All the expertise was contained in the people involved with the conversation. I'm Peter.
I'm Cecil, and I hope you enjoy our conversations. And as you listen, if you find yourself silently saying, that don't sound right, send us a comment. You're one of us. You're looking like you won't believe me now, but
I'm
willing to bet some TDSR currency that is the port side is the side that you unloaded the ship on.
Welcome back to another episode of That Don't Sound Right, a podcast about talking. We're your co-host. I'm Peter Billman.
I'm Cecil Davis.
And man, we're just trying to have a conversation without Googling or fact-checking each other. That can so easily kill the conversation.
It can. And our conversation last week was about the Boeing Starliner, at least part of it was.
What is the Starliner? Remind us.
So that was the capsule that was originally to bring the astronauts back from the International Space Station.
That's how they got up there.
That's how they got up, and they were coming back on it.
And it didn't work so good.
They weren't sure that all the rockets were going to work.
And we
needed the rockets.
And we had an episode on that because they kind of looked at each other and maybe the conversation went something like, okay, we're ready to go back. We think we got it fixed.
Right.
And one astronaut says to the other, that don't sound right.
Right. We were talking about how much documentation would it take for us to get on that Starliner.
Right.
So they said
it wouldn't take you much. Yeah, if I remember right. You're ready to get off of
it. I was ready to test it. So he sent it back this week. Against the TDSR Space Department's advice, they sent back the Starliner unmanned.
Unmanned, right.
And
it made it back. It made it back.
Yep.
No problems. They were interviewing one of the leaders in NASA, and they said, disappointed. They were disappointed. Not that it made it back. They just couldn't do everything to plan.
Yeah.
But they were happy that it made it back and gives them some confidence in their designs. And when things go wrong, they can trust some of their analysis that they do from Earth.
Congratulations. Glad it's back.
Yeah, me too.
And hopefully the astronauts get back safely in February.
I wonder what the conversation is now. Man, we should have gotten on.
Man, I should, yeah. I thought it'd be interesting. What if you stowed away on it? Like if you really wanted to get off the station, but they weren't letting you come back and you just stowed away about halfway down. You just got on the radio and said, oh, by the way, I'm on.
Where are you going to hide out?
Well, everybody would have to be in on it on the space station.
Yeah.
But you just got on it.
Yeah, we won't tell. We won't say anything.
We won't say anything. And then halfway down, you're like, oh, by the way, guys.
Dude, they will know.
I'm on there.
They will know because the thing wouldn't fly right.
There's somebody in it?
Yeah.
Because of the weight?
Yeah.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that thing is so sensitive to weight.
Huh.
Yeah, they would. Well, it would fly right, but it would fly in such a way that would make them think, man, there's something on there.
There's somebody on there.
There's something on that thing. Something's not right. Or they'd abort. Like, this thing's not acting right. Send it back to the space station.
That'd be even worse.
Oh, yeah. Then you get back, since it's automatically docking, which I think you talked to your friend Chris. And
yeah, he said it's all automatic docking now. There's there's probably a manual override, but typically all docking's done by the computer.
So I've noticed you're writing with your right hand.
I am writing with my right hand.
What else do you do with your right hand?
I do everything with my right hand.
Everything?
I think so. I'm not ambidextrous at all.
Well,
the only time I use my left hand is if I'm working on a car and I'm in a weird spot.
And you have to.
And I have to.
And it feels terrible.
And I do have an interesting story about when I had to use my left hand to write for an extended period of time.
Ah, this is what don't sound right to me.
Because you're springing this one on me.
Yeah.
What?
That it's not unusual for a person, to do something really good with the opposite hand.
Yeah. Now, some of my kids can do that. They're ambidextrous.
But ambidextrous tells me that they can do anything on any hand.
Oh, you mean just have luck?
But there's just one or two things that a person does.
So if you're right-handed, but you catch with your left.
One of our listeners, he told me this, and I forgot how we got talking about it, but he eats with his left hand. Oh, we were at dinner together, and he forgot to sit in a place where his left hand wouldn't run into the other person's right hand. And I said, "What do you do? What are you doing? Are you left-handed?" He goes, "Only when I eat." I said, "That don't sound."
Did he train himself to do that?
Well, he has a theory on why that happens.
What's his theory?
The theory is that he's either one of five, the youngest of four, or the youngest of five.
Okay.
So everything was pretty busy in his household.
I bet.
And so when he was a little tyke, he would sit on his mom's lap and eat. And his mom's left-handed. And so he learned to eat left-handed because his mom was doing it that way. And she was helping him to eat. And the way she taught him to eat was with his left hand.
I guess your brain is so plastic at that age that you can learn. Yeah. I wonder if you could teach anybody to do that when they're that young.
I learned how to bat exclusively baseball left-handed.
On purpose?
Yeah, Dad taught me to do that. He thought it was a better position. It was a better deal. He thought that with your right hand being at the bottom of the bat, you had more power. The second thing is that you are 2 or 3 steps closer to first base. You bat left-handed.
Because you're on the other side.
You're on the first base side of the bat of the plate.
Were you good?
Oh no, I don't think it worked. I was not a very good batter.
I'm not either.
In fact, when I throw the ball, when I'm trying to hit balls to outfielders for practice, I pretty much have to switch hands. Because what I learned was that the guiding hand needs to be your dominant hand.
Do you shoot with your left eye or your right eye?
I shoot with my left eye.
Okay, because you're right-handed. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I shoot with my right eye.
Okay, shoot with your right eye.
Yeah, because I'm right-handed.
Right.
I do everything else right-handed.
Huh. There's a lot of, like in Rocky, in what I think it was Rocky 3 or Rocky 4, they trained Rocky to fight. He was a left-handed fighter.
Okay.
And they trained him to fight with his right hand. And then halfway through the fight, he was supposed to switch it up, start fighting with his left hand again. But then he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to resort to any tricks. And so he tried to beat him using his right hand, which was his non-dominant hand.
I got you.
He was a southpaw.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is it called Southpaw?
I have no idea. As soon as that came out of my mouth, I knew you were going to ask a question about it.
Because as we were talking about, as soon as you mentioned Rocky, I'm thinking, I think he's a southpaw. But what is that term?
Somebody's going to have to write us and tell us. By the way, have you checked the mailbag recently?
I've got it up right now, yeah.
Yeah. Remember, if you send us an email, we do read them and we respond to them all at once on a mailbag episode.
Yeah, I've got, let's see, what do we got here? A lot of people trying to sell us services.
Yes. So
but we did get a new. Here's a new logo.
Oh, nice.
From our fan. We got some fan art from Chris. Thanks, Chris.
I wonder if he did that left-handed.
Well, but you were saying you've got your kids do some things.
Yeah, I have kids that can switch up like that and do things.
Are they trained that way? Do they train themselves that way? Well, what do they do?
Now that I think about it, I can't remember what it was. It's like they maybe threw left-handed. I'd have to go back and ask now.
Throw left-handed.
Yeah. But I think I remember, like, people used to try to train themselves not to use their left hand. Like, this is way back before we...
You mean not to use their right hand, like their dominant hand, or not to use their
left hand? Like, if they were born left-handed.
Okay.
It seems like they were in the 50s and 60s before people knew how damaging this was. It seems like they would force kids to write with their right hand.
Oh, I can see that going on.
Yeah. But I had to write with my left hand for a while because I broke my arm and I wanted to continue to work. And this was really before computers were a big deal. And a lot of my stuff was handwritten. And so I found the sheets of paper the other day when I was cleaning some stuff out where I was trying to train myself to write with my left hand.
Yeah? How'd it look?
Looked like about what you'd think it would look like. It's pretty. And that was really a strange thing to do because by the time I was getting good at it, I went back to work.
So you were teaching yourself to write left-handed because your arm was broken.
Yes.
Like is this the broken arm from arm wrestling?
This is a broken arm from arm wrestling.
Okay.
Which we told you about in which episode?
Episode number 60, Arms Race.
That was early in our career as podcasters.
And speaking of early in our career and now being late in our career, next week is our third or the last episode of our
of 3 years.
Of 3 years, yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. I mean, that's quite the feat. One episode every week for the last 3 years.
And by the grace of God, we've not missed an episode.
I tell people about this, and they're astonished we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, we've the topics keep coming. Now, not everyone was a winner, I would say. I've enjoyed all the podcasts.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Now, but our audience would say, some are better than others. Some engage certain groups.
Some engage no group.
Some engage no group.
Except for the group that's right here around the microphones.
I know some people, like, if they hear the word anything automotive that comes on, they might tune out.
Right.
Like, if they hear deer hunting, they may tune out. So if we're on a particular topic on a particular week, people might tune out.
They're goners.
So like, other thing I found out with using my left hand is when I'm working on a car.
Yeah.
If you get under a car, you can do some pretty heavy gymnastics under a car, trying to get your hand in a small crevice behind the engine and turn a bolt. And so you might be using your left hand, you might be using your right hand, you might just be trying to use your mind to turn the bolt through some kind of telekinesis. But yeah, I have found that to be helpful too. Like, I try to use both hands, or I don't try to, I have to use both hands.
Yeah, sometimes you have to. Do you find you can do the job with your left hand? Usually
I can do it. The other thing is I use my left hand, like if I'm really wrenching on something, because my right arm gets tired, and I'll switch over and use my left hand. So if I was taking a lot of bolts off, and so usually I can turn a wrench as good with my left hand as I can with my right hand.
Okay.
If I'm working on the car. Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
I'm really stuck on Southpaw.
Well, why you called that?
I don't think we can leave this episode without making a hypothesis, a speculation, a conjecture.
So I
don't think we could do it.
I wonder if
we have to do it.
I wonder if it's exclusively a boxing term.
Okay, that's a good point.
If you're throwing a punch, it's coming from the south. If you're boxing,
all right,
and you're throwing punches with your right, that's kind of a high punch.
Okay.
If you've got that left hand kind of drop down and it comes up, that would be coming from the
south.
From the south, and then paw just is, another word for hand.
Right. Okay.
That's my guess. Or it's some terribly derogatory term from way in the past.
Right.
Where, because left in pharmaceutical abbreviations, if you're doing left, like if you're for the eye, if you use the old pharmacy abbreviations, which we get away from now, if you're signifying the left eye, it's OS.
Oh.
And if you're signifying the right eye, it's OD.
D.
Yeah, so OS stands for like ocular sinister.
Okay.
I think I remember this right because I am reaching way back. So the O is something that stands for ocular.
Okay.
But the S is sinister.
Right.
And then OD is ocular dextrose. Or not dextrose, that's dextra. There are Latin people out there, if they have decided to listen to this show, they're throwing their phones.
Or they're throwing the phones.
Yeah. So, but the sinister stands for left because at some point back in history, this is not my opinion, the left hand was considered sinister.
Like evil?
Right.
Really?
Yes. I do remember that from my pharmaceutical abbreviations class 36 years ago.
That's good work there, Cecil.
The same thing with so it's like for the ear is AS and AD.
Okay.
So
sinister and
dextra for whatever the Latin is for right.
Okay.
DX, D or DX. So there is some mythology around that left hand that I know about because of that word. So maybe Southpaw has some roots in a similar.
So I'm trying to.
What's your thought?
Well, I'm trying to. My immediate thought is linking south with left. That's the first thing. Why would the left-handed be south? And I'm going back to the Navy for this one.
So Navy is port and starboard.
Yep.
Port being left. And I do know why port is left in this particular instance, but why do you think it's related to a nautical term?
Well, the right side is the starboard side.
Yes.
The right side is the starboard side because as they were coming over from England,
right,
the North Star was always on the right side of the ship.
I don't think that sounds right.
And then
I think you're wrong.
It was on the right side of the ship.
Right.
And then that puts the left side on the south side of the ship. So I would put I put south and left. That's how I'm trying to link south and left. That's how I do it. It comes from a nautical term, because the right side of the ship was north.
I think you're wrong.
Why? Tell me. I
think starboard is a corruption of another word. That's not star.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think it is starboard. Starboard, I think, was a corruption of another word that became starboard.
What was the word?
I don't remember what it was.
Come on, man.
But the reason the port is because they don't call, whatever the word was, they didn't call the port side similar because it sounded too much alike. But they called the port side the left side because that's the side you dock on. The port is on the left side. No, I know this. That when you dock a ship, it docks on the left side. In olden days, that was the port side. And the other side was they call it the starboard side, but I don't think it has anything to do with the stars. You're looking like you won't believe me now that I'm willing to bet some TDSR currency the port side is the side that you unloaded the ship on.
I'm trying to think of pictures or images
of somebody unloading on the right side
of ships at dock.
Yeah.
And were they on the right-hand side?
Always on the left, the port side. I'm going to say on air, because now you've done this to me many times where you say something with such confidence that I capitulate. But starboard is a corruption of another word, which I don't remember, and port was the side that they unloaded the ship's on.
I can buy that the port side is the left side because they've designed the ship in such a way to unload and load it on the left-hand side.
Yes.
However, I still am sticking with starboard.
Okay.
That the right side is the ship because historically, as they were traveling across the ocean, it became the language that the starboard side, where the North Star was. That's how they navigated. They kept that North Star to the right side, the starboard side.
But what if they were going back? Now the North Star is not on the right side.
They don't need that. They already know where the right side of the ship is. They've already named it.
I wish I could remember the starboard side.
Had you heard something? Have you heard this before?
Yes. No, I've heard this explanation.
Could the star being a different word for the plank? Like that's where when you had to walk the plank?
Yeah.
When you had to walk the board, you always had to walk off the right-hand side?
No, I don't know if it'll come back to me. The two sides of the ship, and you had to be able to distinguish between the two. You had to be able to shout it. You had to be able to be heard verbally.
Right. And it had to be different.
It had to be different. And the board, I don't remember. I'm going to have to look it up. I'm going to have to Google it, but not in this conversation. But it wasn't the start. But I mean, your explanation makes sense.
Yeah.
On the cross,
right.
Heading to America.
Yeah.
But I don't buy it to go back.
Well, no one went back.
No one went back. They just got over here and stopped. They unloaded on the port side and burned the ships. If the star is correct, I still think star was someone mispronouncing another word, like strong side or I can't remember what it is. Somebody have to. Maybe we'll have.
Do you think it was French?
This sounds like this has got.
Yeah, it does.
This got Brit written all over it.
It sounds brilliant.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So if you remember, if anybody wants to venture a guess, is the starboard side.
We're not going to kill the conversation. We want you to carry on the conversation with us.
I can't. Man, it's going to be hard not to look this up.
Go ahead. You look it up later. Yeah. That's fine.
But so anyways, you're trying to link the word.
How do we get to Southpaw?
Southpaw.
How does a Southpaw?
So you were trying to link it back.
I got south because south is the left side of the ship.
The left side of the ship. I can go with
that's where I'm going with that.
Yeah. It's the left side of the ship if you're coming to America.
That's right.
It's the north side of the ship if you're going back.
And if you're going north and south, you're in trouble.
That's right. Do you know what light is associated with the starboard side? You should. You grew up in Annapolis.
Yeah, I did.
What is the starboard light? What color is the starboard light, and what color is the port light?
Oh, you mean for going through a channel?
Or a boat.
You mean, but a boat? Oh.
Yeah. So if you're looking at a boat at night, and they have a light on the front, and one side is green, one side's red. Which side is green, which side's port?
If I had to guess, right is, for some reason in my head, right is green, left is red.
I think you're correct.
Because it's opposite of what you think it would be. Because I would think right would be red, the R's. Right. I think that's how I remember it. It's not the same.
I think the way I remember it is the red being sinister.
Oh. Because it's left.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct. What other terms are for left and right are there? So like on a like in anatomy, is sinister always left side on
Well, that's
in
in
anatomy?
the pharmacy. No, I don't know them.
Isn't there a medical term for?
Well, and I always get confused with this. So like if you're, and this actually comes into play in surgery, right? Is being able to say which side is the left side and which side is the right side, because it's different depending on if you're saying the left side and the right side as you're looking at the person.
Right, exactly.
Or if you're looking away from the person.
Is it their left or is it your left?
Right. And so if you're going into surgery and you say, I'm operating on the left arm, that's why, I think they put X's on stuff now on your body. Like if you're going in for surgery, and I know this, they'll come in and say, which one are we operating on? And you point and the doctor confirms and they'll exit. So there's not a mix up as to which side they're operating on.
Does X mean don't do this one?
I think X means that's the one. Well, I
mean, I have a leg, right? Yeah. I have a lot of area I can write. I'd write a paragraph. I'd say, don't do this one. Do the other one.
Yeah.
Because look, if you write on the one that you're supposed to do, and they go over to the one they're not supposed to do, and there's no writing on it, there's nothing that tells them it's the wrong one.
Right.
You got to tell them what the wrong one is, so they will avoid it.
Yeah.
This was a big debate at home. We have a trash can that's is in a slider.
In a slider.
It's a slider. You can open up the door and the trash can slides out.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. But you have to put it in a certain way. And you can either write this side facing out or this side facing to the rear. If you write this side facing out and you put it in backwards, you look at the trash can, it's blank. You don't know you have it in wrong.
Oh, yeah, it does seem to be labeled.
I think boxes should say this end down.
That's a good point.
Because if it's this end up and you put it upside down, you don't know you're wrong.
I don't know it. I don't. So I actually saw this play out. So my oldest daughter had to have some brain surgery. And it was on the particular side. Okay. And when the surgeon came in, he said, we're going to be operating today on the right side. And I said, you mean the left side? And he's like, oh, no, the right. I was thinking about it. And I was like, you need to stop for a minute.
Oh, my gracious.
And make sure y'all have your ducks in a row. And this was a very renowned surgeon.
That's right.
But it was a renowned surgeon. But yeah, I remember having that conversation distinctly. I was like, okay. Because again, when you start talking about that, are you talking about when you're facing the person or as the person?
We're about to, well, I'm telling you, we're about to lose some people because when you talk about cars, it's really easy to say passenger side and driver side, but that only is true if you're in the right country.
Yes. And
better get the left side.
When you look, so a lot of things on a car are left side, right side, correct?
Yeah.
So here's I don't know the answer to this. When you're talking about a car, left side and right side, are you talking about it facing the engine or are you talking about it looking from the back of the car?
Looking back in the car. So
the right side is the passenger side, left side's driver's side.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Another way to look at it is as you sit in the car, that defines left and right.
Because when you're looking at it, you think, as you're looking at the engine and work on it,
and
if you have a left and right hand piece, I'm thinking, left hand is passenger, right hand is driver. As I'm looking at it.
Yeah, as you're looking at it, but that's not how the parts are defined.
Yeah, and these things matter because there are left hand pieces and right hand pieces, especially when it comes to suspension.
Yep.
Okay, so the other day, I was putting a new tie rod ends on, and there's a left, on the same side of the car, there's a left hand tie rod and a right hand tie rod. And one goes in. It's not labeled inner tie rod, outer tie rod. It's left and right. And they have left hand. One of them is left hand threaded.
Yes. Yep.
And so if I tell, what does a left hand threaded mean?
Well, typically when you thread something on, all the threads go in the same direction. So in order to tighten it, you generally will turn it to the right, where the top
righty-tighty.
The top of the nut or the top of the screw is going to go to your right.
Yeah.
That's the tightening direction.
Yes.
But in some cases, like on tie rods or things that spin around, they use the opposite threads. So you can't get it wrong. That's one way to do it. So you can't get it wrong. But also the motion of it moving actually will tighten it instead of loosen it. Yeah. That's why
it's a left-hand thread.
It's a left-hand thread because the top of the nut or the bolt goes to the left.
Right.
in order to tighten it.
Everybody says righty-tighty, lefty-loosey.
Correct.
Except in this instance. And there are those instances where you have a left-hand thread.
Yeah.
Right. And I discovered that once again as I was doing that. Because I had dropped it off, felt I had everything ready and not changed anything. And I was like, wait a minute. One of these is left-handed. One of these is right-handed.
Okay.
One of these goes to the inside. One of these goes to the outside.
All right.
And you had to think about,
well,
it's important.
And you were not going to get it, you weren't going to get it wrong.
No, I wasn't going to get the threading wrong, but I could have inverted the two tie rods.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, man, we got a lot out of this.
Left hand, southpaw. What's left? What's right? What's right?
What's left of this episode? I think there's nothing left of this.
There's nothing left.
You can write us in and tell us what you think the origin of Southpaw is. You can write us in and let me know that I am correct about starboard and port. And that's finally, after 154 episodes, stood my ground and said, that don't sound right.
I'm happy to also receive an email saying that I am right with the 157th time. Hey, before we close, we want to thank everyone for listening. Hey, tune in next week. It'll be a live episode where we'll be recording our 156th episode, marking the end of a 3-year run.
And not the end of the show.
Not the end of the show. We're going to keep going. But if this is your first time and enjoyed the conversation, would you consider hitting the subscribe button on the platform you listen with? Also, if you're that long-time listener, 155 episodes. We thank you. Give us a rating, leave us a review so others can easily find us and join the conversation.
Lisa, who listens to us from the mountains.
Hey, Lisa.
Has listened to all the episodes.
Oh, man.
A dubious record.
That is a dubious record. And we're getting a sizable collection of people who admit that.
No, now in therapy for doing that. All right, That Don't Sound Right is a production of TDSR Podcast in conjunction with Camel City Studios. I'm your co-host, and not really your sound engineer anymore. I should just say I'm your co-host.
No, you still do the editing. You do the editing. You're over here running the soundboard. You're hitting the stop and the start. You're making sure our balance is good. No, man, you're a sound engineer. Bring it.
Peter's your other host and your web designer. Go see the website. Camille's a barista, and she brought us coffee today.
Oh, man. I don't know. It's September. The weather has flipped the switch. It's turning cool. Coffee on an afternoon sounds and tastes so good.
The switch really flipped pretty hard.
Didn't it?
It's been a hot summer.
And then this past Monday, flip.
And it flipped. Emily does our graphic design. Ella does our Instagram. Giorgio tests our merchandise. Brent is our international brand ambassador. And as always, listener number one is Sky. So until next week, keep talking.
And stay curious.
Let's go.